The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, the Genesis Invitational Picks, research, preview, guess the odds for the signature event. The first invitational, Tournament of Champions is technically an invitational. Is Pebble Beach, are the signature events just invitationals? Why is this one an invitational? Maybe someone knows. I do not know these things. Anyway, if you're here, smash the like to the episode, sub to Mayo Media Network, download the podcast, sub to the audio platforms, leave the rating and review, all that fun stuff. My walkthrough today is powered by FantasyNational.com. I'll be revealing the new rolling report tool that we finally have back in action. It is fast, way faster, and much better than ever. You can weight everything. So once we get into the breakdown of everything and we're adding things to the model, I'll show you how the new rolling report works, because you can do it for anything and then add it to your mixed condition model. It's kind of awesome. And like I said, it no longer takes like 30 seconds to load. It's like, boom, let's go. Now when I do it, it takes like 30 seconds. It's going to feel really stupid, but I can edit around that. It'll be fine. Either way, FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off. As we're speaking, the third round has not yet concluded in Phoenix because of weather, frost delays. If there's no frost delay on Sunday morning, I think that they can get it in all before the Super Bowl. If not, maybe just hold the final three groups for Monday and let them play 15, 16, 17, and 18. Just have everyone come back, fill the stadium, get an extra day of tickets out of it. Hell, let them all in for free, sell some extra booze, and you might be good to go. That would be thrilling TV for a post-Super Bowl hangover. The schedule this week is a little bit different. Me and Jeff and Tim, who will be in studio, will be recapping the Super Bowl early on Monday morning. Then the three of us are doing our picks, bets, one and done for the Genesis Invitational. That should probably come out later on Monday evening or early on Tuesday morning, depending on when we get all the editing done on it. But we're trying to push out the Super Bowl recap as quickly as possible. So if you do want to see the show, even before it's airing, in video version, because you can't really do it for the audio version, but I'll have the secret link, if it does get early, in the Mayo Media newsletter. My full write-up will be included in there as well, and if I do get the listeners link early, it will be in the newsletter too. It's completely free to join. It's down in the description or on Substack.com if you just search Mayo Media. All right? Genesis Invitational. The quick notes on this: there's currently 65 players in the field. A few more could potentially get in depending on what happens in Phoenix, but there is a cut. Tiger demanded at his tournament that there be a cut. It's not a big cut because there's only 65 players, but it does get cut down to the top 50 and ties. This course already has shared lineage in terms of winners and being a lefty playing to the advantage with Augusta National. Now it has like a similar size field with exactly the same cut rules. Top 50 and ties go on. No one within 10 shots of the lead. So just if you're playing like crap, you're going to get cut. Tiger is playing for the first time since this tournament a year ago. It's pretty exciting. So golf goes into a lull now for a few weeks until we get to Bay Hill, which ramps it back up a little bit. Then you have the Players' Championship, which is, the quote-unquote fifth major. But it does really good ratings. People are interested. There'll be a millionaire maker on DraftKings for the Players' Championship. So at least the PGA Tour has a chance to get it right with this event. Because I call this 4-week stretch probably the best 4-week stretch of the season. When you go to Torrey Pines, still a pretty good field, although it wasn't a signature event. And I just really love watching Torrey Pines, and that tournament is always thrilling down to the wire for its conclusion. Pebble Beach, well, at Torrey Pines, we got Pavon winning over a bunch of nobodies, so that was like, all right. It was still great to watch, but it lacked the real star power at the top. Pebble Beach, everyone was there. It was a no-cut event. The first time that we had a great Pebble Beach tournament in basically, the U.S. Open not included, basically since like Phil, Tiger, and I want to say it was Kevin. It wasn't Kevin Yu. Was it Charlie Wu? Charlie Yu? Whoever it was. There was like a third guy in that group playing down to the wire at Pebble Beach. That was a really fun one, but that was like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. This was the best field for Pebble Beach in a really long time. Cut the Pro-Am to 2 days, and then, of course, Sunday and Monday get rained out, and it's only 54 holes, and Wyndham Clark wins. You're like, oh, That kind of sucks. Phoenix has been a lot of fun, but we've been dealing with a frost delay in the mornings, which pushed everything, and then a rain delay, which got people off the course for like 4 hours. Now they're just constantly playing catch up. Although Saturday evening, the Golf Channel was like, we don't even care if we show you the leaders. What we're going to do is just show you what's going on at 16. Kevin Kisner is there with an open mic, and he's just going to cook. I actually really enjoyed it. Kiz was great. Just giving people heat the entire time. He was booing people that were missing the green. It was an awful lot of fun. So Phoenix is still going to be fine, but Genesis is really where the PGA Tour right now needs to make its bones, mainly because Tiger is playing. So think about any trip. Like the Genesis is going to be highly rated anyway. Everyone loves Riviera. It's an elevated event. All of the best players outside of Mathieu Pavon is not playing in this event, and neither is Justin Rose. They're the only two people that can play in this field that aren't playing in this field. But you just insert Tiger into it, and people are like, oh, Tiger's playing. First time in a year. I like Tiger Woods. Let's tune into that. So they can recoup and build up some momentum going into that Bay Hill Players, then into the Masters to reignite some of the good feelings. Because football will be over on Sunday. I mean, that's probably not going to get rain delayed. Or, I guess the last time that that was Baltimore, San Francisco that had the power outage. Not Kansas City, San Francisco. Either way. Football is going to conclude on Sunday evening. And then we're going to have RIV with Tiger. Like, there are very few things that golf can do to get into the A block on SportsCenter or PTI, or just in the national conversation. Like, yeah, a 21-year-old amateur wins at the Amex. That's great. That's buried. Like, unless you're really following golf, yeah, maybe you'll see a scroll on the bottom of the ticker, or maybe someone brings it up. But if Tiger's playing, and especially if Tiger can make the cut or just look decent, then we start getting, hey, is Tiger back? Hey, is Tiger going to perform well at Augusta? When's he going to play in between these two tournaments? Is he going to play the Players' Championship? Like, Tiger is Jordan. Tiger is Mike Tyson. Like, there are so few athletes like that. Golf still has one. He's hanging on by a thread, but this gets you back into the consciousness. The ratings will be high for this event. It's not going to go on all day. You can really focus in because there's only 65 players that golf really does need to put its best foot forward here. And it's not like they haven't been trying. Weather screwed them each of the past 2 weeks. Hopefully, I know there's been a lot of rain in Los Angeles. Hopefully that's all out of its system at this point, and they get a nice 4 days at the Riviera Country Club, one that is just, I remember watching this back on like Square TV, the 4:3 aspect ratio, and as soon as it switched to HD, I was too poor to own an HD TV for the longest time. And then I got one when they got cheaper. And just I believe it's the 16th hole, that like dead tree on the par 3 looks so good in high definition. Looks even better in 4K. At this point, now I can afford a 4K TV and a 4K cable box, because you people are so good to me. You support, you smash the like, all that stuff allows me to afford a 4K TV. But Riviera just looks gorgeous on TV. Hopefully the massive swings in elevation aren't going to cause problems for Tiger Woods this week, because that's always been kind of the problem now with the Masters, like with his foot problem and his back problem, just the amount of up and down. Like when he played Hero during, I guess that was his return to the Albany course in Bahamas or Bermuda, wherever the hell that is. Like, that's a completely flat course. And we saw some signs of life from him there. Like, he wasn't an abject failure at that tournament. It only had 14 people in it. And this one only has 65. And he has been making the cut at this tournament, which is really weird that this is his tournament. I get that it's in LA. It's super convenient for him. It's quote unquote a hometown event for him. Although Torrey Pine should really be his event because he won that tournament so many times. He's never won at Riviera. Like, this course always kind of flummoxed him. So now at an elevated age, coming off really non-competitive play in over a year, multiple surgeries, multiple injuries. Like, the expectations cannot be that high for Tiger. But if he makes the cut, that is great news. They should have almost made it a no-cut event to ensure that Tiger plays all 4 rounds. But if he can squeak into the cut or does anything, like piles up like 2, for the first hole at Riviera is like the easiest hole. I think it's actually the second easiest hole on the PGA Tour behind number 9 or 18 at Wailea, one of those two. But if you can get off to like a hot start and do something, it'll be on TV and it'll get people fired up and people will tune in. And that's, if you're a fan of the PGA Tour or a fan in golf in general, like that's what you want to see. You want more excitement around it. I'm probably not going to be, I shouldn't say I'm probably not doing a Mexico Open show. I'm going on vacation. I'm not doing a Mexico Open show. I do have shows for you every single day of the week. I got Richard Deitch. He joined Jeff and I to talk about different broadcasting rights. I actually appeared on Joe Iadone's podcast. He had a hole-in-one today. Shout out Joe. First ever hole-in-one. Dude's a good golfer too. It's crazy. I've never had a hole-in-one. That's comment section for you. Have you ever had a legitimate hole-in-one on a course? I've been playing golf for like 30 years. Never had a hole-in-one. I've hit the pin a few times. I celebrated a hole-in-one once. And then I walked up and it was like 2 inches behind the cup. It was going on the green and then it disappeared. So I was like, perfect, here we go. Nice little like 154 8-iron. No, wasn't to be had. But I hit the pin twice this year on par 3s. I just want to know if you've ever had a hole-in-one or not. So we have a whole bunch of awesome shows. The Model Maniac, Byron from Rotoballer, is joining me to talk about the most profitable way to bet on golf. Shocker, it's not outrights, although if The Gala can hold on or Justin Thomas can stage a comeback, who knows? My point about the Mexico Open, though, we have that future from the first week of the season, Tony Finau 18-1, and it looks like he is committed to playing that tournament. I suppose we can jump over to Fantasy National here in a second and take a look at the season-long planner. That's one of the new options at the top, a brand new tool at Fantasy National. You can see who's actually committed to the Mexico Open. There's not that many people committed to the Mexico Open as of right now. No one's really like, hey, see you in Mexico. Just like, maybe I'll go to Mexico. We'll see how it goes. We have Finau at 18-1. He's going to open at like 6-1 or 7-1. He's like the only good player who's going. Batia probably goes. He's probably second. But Jake Knapp, like this is a bomber's course. He played really well at Torrey. He's playing really well this week in Phoenix. We'll see how he finishes up. An up-and-comer from the Corn Ferry Tour. I know a lot of people in our Twitter sphere already really like Jake Knapp. But this seems like a perfect course for him. Bit slower greens, go bombs away, make a few putts. So it'll probably be Finau and Jake Knapp for me in terms of the Mexico betting board. When I'm in Aruba sitting on a beach and the odds are released, I'll see if he's in the field and I'll see if the odds are better than like 20-1 or something like that. But anything like 30-1 and beyond, I think you can take a shot at Knapp because we have that great number on Tony Finau. So enough of my ramblings off the top. Remember just to sub to the newsletter. All of the full write-up in there. I'll add the bets to it as we go along, and then I'll have another one. Actually, I don't even know if I'm going to do another one this week because I'm bolting on Tuesday. Hopefully this weather in Boston doesn't absolutely screw my flights getting down to Panama so I can get to Aruba, but we'll deal with it as it goes. I don't know. By the time I get to Panama and I'm drained, I don't really know if I want to write a newsletter about bets, but I'll just add them maybe to the one that I have up there. So you can go back and reference the link on Substack, but you can get it sent right to you directly. And if you're watching this before the Super Bowl, go to runthesims.com. It's free for the Super Bowl. You can run any simulations you want. You can just tail the prop sniper, tail the projections, make your DFS lineups, whatever it is that you want. Runthesims.com. Then we got spring football coming along where that's really a printing press when it comes to DFS, but mainly Prize Picks of all places, because most sportsbook don't actually put out props for UFL, which was the XFL and USFL. They've merged into one. But by the end of the season, they were basically just taking the Run the Sims projections and making those the over-unders on their sites. But for like the first 6 weeks, were they bad? And our numbers were good at runthesims.com. So give it a whirl for free. You don't have to put in a credit card or anything like that. Just do it. All right? Let's get to Riviera. And usually when we do the visual overview of the course, shout out to our friends at Golf Digest. If you're listening to the audio version, yes, there is a flyover of the course in the video version on YouTube. But I want to start with number 10, not number 1, because the drivable number 10 is what I think is a prime example of a great short par 4. It's been the second toughest par 4 under 350 yards on the PGA Tour over the last decade, yet it has played under par 6 of the past 7 seasons. And it does present a legitimate conundrum for players on the tee box. This is what I like about it so much. Most of which has to really do where the pin is at that day. If you're long and the pin is at the back, it's absolute death. You're going to make a bad number. If the pin is at the back and you lay up, then you have to contend with the fact that the green regulation percentage from inside 75 yards on the 10th hole is no guarantee. You think it would be for pros. Since 2013, there have been 3,407 attempts from inside 75 yards on number 10. Of these attempts, just 62% of the players hit a green in regulation. That's 2,111 of 3,407. Since 2012, players only managed to salvage par 53% of the time when the hole location is on the back right side of the green. Essentially, if you're going to miss when you're going for the green, miss left and just hope that you don't get scummed by one of the trees over there. Even when Max Homa, the year that he went to the playoff and beat Tony Finau, got scummed on the tree, he was still able to get it on the green and make his putt. Another advantage for lefties and hard draw players. 1 in 3 players who miss the right of the green make bogey or worse. And of all the players in the field this week, Corey Connors holds the best green and regulation percentage inside 75 yards of anyone. So the toughest greens to hit inside of 75 yards on the PGA Tour, this is number 1. Number 10 at Riviera, 62%. Innisbrook, that's the Copperhead course for the Valspar. Number 5, 70% of the time. TPC River Highlands for the Travelers, hole number 2, 72% of the time. And then the Oaks course, TPC San Antonio, number 5 on that course, only 74% of the time do people hit a green in regulation inside 75 yards. That's just nutty for a professional. Imagine us out there. It would just be absolute death. Although I'm sure that the non-pro tees are a bit closer to the green than even like 200 or 340 yards or whatever it is, all the way down that hill. I do remember Harold Varner being in the lead at this event once, and he topped the ball off the tee. Very rarely. The only 2 players I can ever remember topping the ball off the tee while I've been watching, they didn't even show that one. We were just, eventually someone got the footage out to us, was Varner on number 10 and Molinari in the Pro-Am one year in Pebble Beach. Just like, oh my God, he did what I do off the tee. That's insane. Another thing that I do, I watch the end of LIV. Shout out DJ, Bryson really like shit all over himself coming down the stretch. That was no fun for my bet. But on the number 15, the par 5 at TPC Country Club, Rahm put it way right off the tee and then chipped himself back out from underneath of a tree. It's like, all right, he was tied for the lead at the time too at -10. There was like 6 guys. It was a really cool finish at LIV. And then he shanked it. It was crazy. I've never seen Jon Rahm shank a shot before. And unfortunately for him, unlike Riviera last year, if you're just going to blast it somewhere, there wasn't even grandstands he could blast it into to get a free drop, although his recovery shot was amazing. He put it to like 4 feet, and then, of course, he just missed the putt. That's 2 times in 2 weeks that Jon Rahm has blew it coming down the stretch with terrible play with like 4 holes to go. 2 tournaments that he should have won on the LIV Tour. Maybe this is why he went and got the guaranteed money. No, he's not a closer anymore. Can't close. But yeah, it was actually pretty fun to watch the end of LIV. It played really tough. It was cold and windy. It got a little less windy towards the end of the day, but the course itself played very difficult. And I think I saw the stat, they flashed it up on the screen. The team of Brooks, Gooch, Kokrak, and Uline, I think it is. Or maybe it was Wolf, because Wolf was in it too. They were a combined like 10 under par. Their team, I think it's Smash GC. I have no idea who's on what team. I just know the Range Goats have Bubba Watson on them. That's the one that I know. But those 4 guys were a combined 10 under par at LIV Vegas on Saturday, the final round. And the rest of the field was 70 over par or something crazy like that. Thought that was kind of crazy. But enough of LIV. Let's get back to Riviera and talk about why it's a little bit like Augusta National. Because I mentioned it before, there is a clear bias towards left-handers at Riviera and players who hit a draw. Now, Dustin has played very well here over the years, and he hits a fade, so it's not like you can't overcome these things. Morikawa has played really well here. Obviously, he hits a fade, doesn't hit a draw, so it's not the most insane thing in the world. You can overcome all of that, but when you've seen, even Brian Harmon, a short hitter, play really well here. Mike Weir has won here twice. Phil won here 3 times. Bubba won here 3 times. Like, lefties play well at Augusta. I mean, all 3 of those guys also won at Augusta National, have won multiple times at RIV. And then, so you have the crossover there. And you could also say that because good players play in this event historically, and good players play at Augusta, it works in that method too. So maybe there's not that much to draw from it. However, there is significant leaderboard crossover between Riviera and Quail Hollow historically too. So it's not like we're saying, oh, Phil and Bubba are, they're so great, they won at both these courses. No. Max Homa has won at both. JB Holmes has won at both, and James Hahn has won at both of those courses. I feel like that is evidence enough to say that whether it be shot shaping off the tee, I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's going to work out pretty well. On paper, it's 7,322 yards. That doesn't seem like it would be too long of a task because it's only a par 71, but that's before you really look at the scorecard. It turns out Riviera is actually quite daunting, and there are elevation swings all over the course, but you also have a micro par 4 that I already talked about, number 10, at just 315 yards, but all 3 of the par 5s are under 600 yards. It's not like you have one really being bulky and being 649 yards and really upping the yards. No, it kind of goes the other way at Riviera. It just leaves a lot of yardage to go around. What remains are the 7 par 4s that measure over 450 yards, all of which play over par. You'd be hard-pressed to find a course on the PGA Tour featuring more approach shots from 175 yards and beyond. 46% of approaches this week come from that range. 2/3, 67%, come from 150 plus. So that's not going to be a whole lot of fun. Short hitters with excellent irons can contend at Riviera for sure, but the degree of difficulty is just a lot higher for them. We've seen it happen. We've seen Wes Bryan play well here, Adam Hadwin play well here in the past. It's a lot like Torrey Pines. Like if you're hitting the fairway and you're hitting your long irons well, you're chipping and putting well, you can most definitely contend not being a bomber. But being a bomber is really the path that you want to take. Fairways are tough to hit anyway. Only 55%, and the rough is generally very short in spots, which allows for the bombers as well. Just a glance at the past winners, and you're going to get a bit of an idea of who does well. And like basically, if you went to LIV, you played this tournament really well over the years. What else do we got going on here? Strokes gained influence among the top 5 finishers over the past decade showed strokes gained approach to be twice as impactful as off the tee and around the green. Again, one of the lowest driving accuracy courses. Sports one of the smaller greens in regulation rates at only 57%, despite the greens being like 7,500 yards. The PGA Tour average is 62% and 66%. And Riviera has ranked inside the top 10 toughest greens to hit in regulation 11 of the past 12 seasons. So short game will play a determining factor, but it's a lot like Pebble Beach. And weirdly, I mean, not weirdly, maybe this is why there is a crossover, and Augusta National. Like you need to know these green complexes. They're very unique. These greens are super tough. So are the green complexes when it comes to chipping. And I think there's a reason that like Bubba Watson can have a wonky short game almost everywhere, yet he can figure it out at Riviera time after time. The biggest difference between Pebble and Riviera, like they both have Poa annua greens, but Riviera's greens are huge. And it puts an extra emphasis on lag putting. Again, a lot like Augusta National. Knowing your speeds, being able to 2-putt from 65 feet, because there's a ton of 3-putts at this course. A week after a course has some of the easiest putting inside 10 feet and 20 feet, and just putting in general in Phoenix, Riviera historically ranks as the toughest course from putting inside of 5 feet, along with Pebble Beach, along with Torrey Pines, all POA courses because of the bumps. When I talked to Michael Kim, that was one of the things that I talked to him about. Why is it that POA is like that? And he had kind of said that, there's bumps in the green, things aren't going to turn for you in the right way, and these greens are super quick as well. But he's like, it's a compounding effect a lot of the time. Like if you miss a 3-footer, guys that are historically good on POA just kind of learn to shake that off and move on to the next hole. Where other guys, that's why Dustin was so good at this course. Dude's like a robot. He misses one, he's like, I forgot about that one. Let's move on to the next hole. But Michael said that one of the main reasons that people putt so poorly from in close on POA is mainly because they just get rattled. Like they lose their confidence over these 3-foot putts. Maybe this is good for Scotty Scheffler. He misses every 3-foot putt anyways. It's nothing new to him. Obviously, not all POA greens are the same. The putting surfaces at Riviera tend to roll as some of the fastest on tour each year. Again, like Quail Hollow and Augusta National and Memorial for that matter. The best putters, we'll get to that in a little bit. And after Pebble Beach, the toughest greens to hit from inside 125 yards. So it's not just number 10. Only 76% of players hit the green in regulation from inside 125 yards. Narrow fairways. Broadcasters love saying Kikuya. You're going to hear it. It's the same sort of rough that you see in like South Africa. So expect the thick grass type of the rough mentioned over and over. But like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, it can be easy in some spots. It's going to be patchy when the ball gets in there. You might have the best lie, you might have the worst lie. It's just one of those things where you hope to get lucky. You need your luck factor in the T Woods video game cranked up to 110, and then maybe you can be good to go. So let's hop over to fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off any of the membership levels, weekly, monthly, annual, whatever it is. Annual is going to be the best deal, 20% off. So I would suggest taking that one because you're going to want to dig in more on Fantasy National. We can go, there's a season-long planner that I talked about before, the brand new tool. You can see that when you have your players, you can see what the tournaments they've committed to. Mexico doesn't have a whole lot of commitments so far. Who we got? We got Tony Finau. He's committed to playing. That's great news. He's like the only one who is committed to play. this week. You can see, and it will show the players who played in it last year too. Oh, who do we have here? Oh, R. Padera is playing. I don't know who that is, but he's going to be in the field in Mexico. I assume he's a Mexican golfer. Yeah, that's the only commitment that we've seen so far for that tournament. Let's scroll back over and go to the tournament history at this course. Again, a lot of live guys did very well. John Rahm won a year ago with Max Homa, Patrick Cantlay, Will Z, who is in the field this week as a sponsor's exemption, Morikawa, and Sahith Theegala end up coming. There's the short hitter with good long irons who putted really well last year. Matt Kuchar would be that guy. So Rahm at -17 was the winner. Joaquin Niemann flamed everyone the year before that. He also went to live. He won at -19 with Morikawa and Cam Young, Victor Hovland, and Adam Scott all inside the top 5. Then you see JT and Scheffler. Homa again is up there. 2021 was the year Max Homa didn't go to live, beat Tony Finau in a playoff. Sam Burns came third that year. That was the year Burns should have won this tournament. And he was leading at the turn, and things went south very quickly for old Sam Burns. I don't want to see him win in Phoenix because when we kind of take a look, like Rahm was third in Phoenix prior to his win last year. Niemann was sixth at the Farmers prior to his win in 2022. Homa was seventh at Pebble Beach in his tournament start before winning in 2021. Adam Scott had won the Australian PGA Championship in 2020 when he had won. So each of the past 4 winners have a top 10 finish in their event previous to that. You can see Scott beat Kuchar, Homa, like a lot of sticky course history too. You see Cantlay pop up every single year. So when we take a look at who has played the best, it's Homa, Cantlay, Adam Scott, Morikawa, and Xander. And you can see, I mean, even with a cut event, like very few of these guys are ever getting cut. Xander and Finau are up there too. Rory's been progressively getting worse at this event over the years. Hovland's only played it 3 times, has 2 top 5s and no finish worse than 20th. See, Scheffler's never finished worse than 30th and 4 starts. Zalatoris has 2 top 20s and no finish worse than T26. So the same guys over and over. If we kind of take a look at some of the players who had done well in debut appearances, you have Svensson. Fowler's played it pretty well over the past 3 years. Day top 10 here. The first time he had played it since 2020 when he had a case of the going bads going. Let's see. Tom Kim was T45 in his debut. Yeah, it's a very concentrated field. You can see the players that have never played this before. Like, this should be a Ludwig course if there ever was one. And he does kind of fit that mold. A first-time player. I mean, can he win at Riviera? Sure. People have talked about how crappy his putting has been on POA, which is just objectively not true when you look at the numbers. He gains over a 0.6 strokes per round on POA in his career. It hasn't been a lot, but people just remember the misses from short distance at Farmers. They don't remember the makes. He gained on Torrey Pines South on POA. He gained 1.1 strokes in 3 rounds and a 9th place finish. He gained 2.7 in 3 rounds. And only, I mean, we don't even have the numbers from Spyglass. We only have the numbers from Pebble. So that's just at Pebble Beach. So we gained almost 1.5 strokes per round on the greens and barely did anything on approach. You're going to see a lot longer approaches here. His driving is going to play like he is a bet. You basically just bet him until he wins at this point. I'd probably go back to Theegala as well if he doesn't win in Phoenix. But that's how it was done, or here's how it was done a year ago. Rahm on approach was just, imagine being Max Homa and gaining 11.3 strokes putting and not winning a tournament. That is insanity. When Rahm gains almost 12. Now, this was in the midst of the Rahm run where it looked like he was going to be unbeatable because he won this, and then he was the first round leader in Bay Hill, and people were like, well, just give him the green jacket. And then he kind of imploded at API, and he kind of sucked at the players. Then, like, very few people bet him at the Masters, and of course he wins the Masters after that's the case. Last year on approach, Holmes was bad. Rahm, List, Woodland, Theegala, Rory, Xander. You see Cooch was up there as well. Cooch didn't even really putt. He chipped really well last year. Fowler, Jaeger, Zalatoris, Cam Young was up there. Off the tee, the best players, Scotty, Cantlay, Keith. Keith was making a run last time I looked in Phoenix. Would be pretty decent for him. He hit. I had him in actually, when I came on the show last week, obviously I didn't know if Pebble was going to be played more or not, but I was filming it midday on Saturday while Wyndham Clark was making his run, and I was first place in the single entry $200. I ended up winning that with Keith Mitchell in that lineup because I had Wyndham Clark. Right now, I'm currently top 5 in the big $5, but I need Carson Young to get back going right. Sahith winning would be nice, or Doug Gim winning would be really nice for that one lineup that I'm talking about. Tambo's currently winning like $25K, and he has a Fantasy Golf World Championship seat in his grasp right now. He's on site. The last time that he went to one of these tournaments, he went to the St. Jude FedEx, and it was the first time he ever bet Zalatoris, and hell, Zalatoris won. There's where he was at. See Keith Mitchell, yeah, Like he doesn't really putt all that well on POA, but he is a bomber, and that's what we're really going to lean into this week. So that's who really plays well at Riviera. Probably time to build out some stats this week. So Riv stats, what are we looking for here? Well, you can always go into course breakdown and take a look at, all of the holes. I've already talked about them all, and I kind of broke everything down when the course overview was going on, but you can see there's the average shot distribution. It's super long. Those long par fours are going to kill you from time to time. I'll have year-over-year notes in the newsletter as well. Green regulation percentage low, scrambling a little bit higher, so that's nice. Driving accuracy a little bit low, 3 putts a little bit higher, average driving distance a little bit lower, green regulation proximity a little bit longer. The cut line, I guess that doesn't really matter anymore. It was +2, +1, +1, +2, +1, +3, +1, +1. It hasn't been under par ever in basically my lifetime. Basically since 2003, that's all the data goes back in the historic cut line, and none of it was ever under par. That probably changes this year, I would guess, with the top 50, but it'll probably be right around even if I had to guess. In terms of a DraftKings streak, now this is very interesting because you have number 18, which is the 4th hardest hole on the course, as number 18. So instinctively, you're like, oh, I need to go 1 through 18 to have any sort of showdown. If there's an advantage to be had. But here's the thing. Number 1 is a par 5, and it's the easiest hole on the course. It has a 6.3%. There are 3 times as many eagles made on number 1 as bogeys or worse made on number 1, which should really tell you something. So the birdie or better rate on number 1 is over 65%. Now, number 17 is not an easy par 5. It plays slightly below par, but the birdie rate is almost 30%. But here's where it becomes somewhat interesting, because number 9, super tough. And so was number 8. So a 10% birdie rate at number 8, an 11% at number 9, 26% for number 10, and then the easier par 5, the second easiest par 5 of the 3, a 35%. But if you start on 10, you have this wraparound where you have a 30% birdie or better rate on 17, a 65% on number 1, and while number 18 is super difficult, it has a 9% birdie rate. That's not all that dissimilar than number 8 or number 9. So when you actually compound everything together, starting on number 10 is actually the play here. I mean, it's a very marginal difference. Like, just based on the percentages, golfers going front to back have a 1.14% chance of building out the birdie streak at the turn based on 8, 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, and that way forward. If you go from 10, 18, and start over on 1, you have a 1.18% chance of doing it. So, I mean, it's not quite double, but it's like 75, 80% higher. That probably doesn't mean anything, to be perfectly honest. You probably just take the better players in Showdown, but I just thought that was interesting, just doing the quick math on some of this stuff. So let's jump back over. I've already built out my Riviera model, so we can take a look at it right now and throw that in. I have strokes gained ball striking at 30%. Stroke, that's a combination of off the tee and approach. I have approach weighted again at 15%. So overweight on approach, and that's what I said earlier. Around the green, 10%. Par 4s, 450 to 500 yards, 10%. Driving distance, 15%. Proximity, 175 to 200, 5%. 200 plus, 5%. Proximity, 150 to 175, 5%. And strokes gained putting, 5% is the model that I am rolling out this week. So we can take a look at who ranks the best over the past 12 rounds, and it is Xander Schauffele. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, this is a very short term of the model. Scheffler, Morikawa, Finau, Kitayama, number 5. So there's your first long shot, or presumed long shot at least. Hovland, Homa, Thomas, Chris Kirk, Keegan Bradley, all the top 10. Then you got Windy C, Ludwig, Scott, Connor Svensson, who played really well here last year. Eric Cole, don't love him at a non-bombers course. McIlroy, List, Hollywood Hoagie, and Steven Yagabombs, who got himself into this tournament. There's also a guy at the bottom here. Where the hell is that guy? Jake Knapp is in this tournament? I did not realize that. I don't think he is in. Maybe he's not. This is the first run of the field, and they're going to update it again, so we'll see on that front. But here's the new thing, the new tool that you can use on Fantasy National, and you can actually use it to activate within your model. So underneath Active Model, you go to, I have it on Riviera right now, but you just go to Rolling Model, And you can see in the rolling model, you can choose whatever you want. You can even choose your model to go in it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep that in. But here's the thing that I think is super fascinating. You see how quickly that loaded too. So a lot different than it used to be. So you just go to rolling model, under active model, then under rolling, you click what you want. Then you can edit the rolling model. So everything is weighted at 17%, giving, the last 4 the same as the last 100. So you can weight this any way you want, and this will all be personal preference for you if that's the way that you want it. So if you want to say, hey, last 4 isn't all that great, that's one round. Like, yeah, we want recent form, that's great, but that should not be weighted all the same. What we want to kind of do is stagger this to a point. At least this is what I want to do. So we're going to make that the most, then we're going to go 24 and 50. So what I'm doing here, and then we'll put, longer form inside this for the rolling model right now. So the last 4, 7%, last 8, 12%, last 12, 16%, 28 for last 24. I actually like last 12 a little bit more than that. We can down last 8 a little bit. So past 24 being the highest. Maybe, maybe I'll put past 12 up there because we really want to have recent forms. We'll weight basically 12, 24, and past 50 rounds almost identically. Then we'll drop past 100 rounds back to 14%. So the shortest of the term, we're going very short. And the longest term, we're waiting in between the short and the intermediate term, where I'm really trying to emphasize recent form with this. And again, with a Fantasy National membership, fantasynational.com/Mayo, you can go do all this stuff yourself. And you don't need to use the sliders. You can actually just go in and adjust the numbers if you really want to. 24, that's what I have it as anyway. So I'm going to update the model. And here are the few different things you can do. So based on my model, with the weightings that I have now, the overall model ranks. You don't need to click on last 24 and last 12 in order to find out what the best mix of everything is. Boom, you can just go to your model rank. But here's the fun part of everything. You can go to your mixed condition model, and now you can add this model into the mixed condition model. So the weighted rolling report model that you have built, you can add into the mixed condition model, which I am going to do. We're going to throw it in, and once we go back and add a few more things here in a second, we can weight that with the side that we want. So it's a far more efficient way to use the former rolling report. It's just called the rolling model now, and you can do it for any one of the stats. In this rolling model, Scheffler is number 1. Scheffler, Schauffele, Rory, Hovland, Ludwig, Colin, Tony, Eric Cole, Justin Thomas, Max Homa, and Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark will most definitely win this tournament, by the way. And then Cantlay. So one thing that you notice from this one, it's all great course history guys, right? When we went and looked at all the course history, who's gained the most strokes the past 5 years, yada, 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 it's all these guys. Scheffler, Xander, Rory, Max Homa. The only guys that aren't on this list are the guys that went to LIV because they're not playing in this tournament. Hell, even Adam Scott is number 14 in this modeling. So the name that really interests me here again is Ludwig. He's number 5. He is mixed in. He and Eric Cole, really, but I just prefer the skill set of Ludwig here. So Ludwig probably going to end up being a bet for me. Benny Ann is number 13. List is up there as well. Keegan, Connors, there's Hideki, Kirk and Zalatoris, Steven Yeager, number 20. Like to see that. Kitayama, Svensson, and Thigala all up there as well. Kevin Yu doing pretty well at number 26. Who's like the worst in this? Seamus Power, Taylor Moore, who played well at this tournament last year. Taylor Montgomery, yeah, the bad approach will do that for you. Maybe you can putt his way to success here. Jason Day, Griot, Mac Hughes, Nick Dunlap, Denny. There's Tiger coming in at number 55. Fitz does not do very well in this modeling, although he did play this tournament pretty well a year ago. We'll see here. Genesis, he did not actually. He missed the cut here a year ago. He was 5th in 2021 and 30th, so he doesn't have a lot of history at this course when we take a look at it. But that is what the rolling report will tell us. You see like Fleetwood and Fowler, Tom Kim, Nick Hardy. Nick Hardy, my guy, making a run for me. I'm so glad that I ended up going on the Nick Hardy train. I went over the simulator results we can go to the top here. I went over this on the live show that I did on Wednesday this week, and it still had Xander in it the last time that we ran it. But for whatever reason, where was it? We went to win percentage. I mean, obviously, I don't know the conclusion of this yet. Made the cut, didn't play, made the cut. No clue how Ben Griffin did. Shout out to Tom Kim for really rallying to make the cut. Berger's having a great week. Sung Jae ended up sneaking himself in. But Davis Thompson just randomly being up here is like the simulator having him as without Xander, the 6th favorite to win this tournament was just kind of like, everyone just kind of like, okay, whatever. I ended up playing him in DFS because of it, but he got off to a real hot start in round 3. He was inside the top 10 the last time that I looked, so hopefully he can hold on because I ended up playing him just because his name started popping up here. Dietrich as well. Dietrich was 3 over through 9 holes in round 1 and just went on a tear on the back 9. So that's what we're looking at for the rolling report of the Riviera model. Now we can go back and we can take a look at some course-specific stats. So I'm just going to load back in my Riviera model. We can actually go to putting for this one. So let's just go with putting, and we'll go with last 12 rounds. We can actually increase the sample a little bit more with that. And we can take a look at the putting at Riviera specifically to see if there's anyone that we can go at. I had mentioned it earlier. The best players will go with average, and underneath the brand new little bar, we can type in Riv. We just want to take a look at Riviera CC. We'll apply the course filters. And again, like when you look down the left-hand scroll on fantasynational.com right now, you can see the percentages of how this course plays. Like it generally plays firm. There are times where it plays a bit softer or medium, but the majority of the time it plays firm. The majority of the time hitting fairways is difficult. The majority of the time the rough length is short, but we've seen average and somewhat long in some spots. Green speed 100% fast, par 71 100% of the time. The course length has changed over the years. Sometimes they push the tee box back. That's only 5% of the time. Sometimes they had moved them up, and that was probably like 10 years ago, but 32%. But 63% of the time it is playing between 7,200 and 74 yards. It's calm 80% of the time in terms of the wind. It's been windy AF over 17 miles per hour. 4% of the time of rounds that have been weighted so far. But anyway, we're rolling back. We see we have Riviera highlighted, past 24 rounds highlighted, and putting highlighted. So let's just take a look at the average of guys that putt well here. So only 2 rounds for Montgomery, 4 for Svensson. They're the leaders per round. Denny in 13 rounds has putted very well. Kitayama in his 2 rounds. So guys with a large sample. Ryder and Homa are both up there. Windy C at 13 rounds, gaining almost 3/4 of a stroke per round on the green. Patrick Rogers, Sam Burns. I really like Sam Burns this week. So we got Ludwig, Sam Burns. Try to find some other guys that we can throw into this mix. Ben Ann and Kitayama actually rated out pretty well from what we've been seeing so far. They've been common names. Harris English is having a pretty good run right now in Phoenix. He has putted very well on these surfaces over time. So was Kuchar. Cam Young in 8 rounds. Cam Young was, I think that was the Neiman year that he played really well too and just couldn't get the job done. Adam Scott putts really well here. So let's try to find the guys that do not putt well at Riviera. Ben Ann, big shocker. Fortunately, that's only in 4 rounds. Woodland, Keegan, Connors, Spawn, Fowler, Luke List, Nick Hardy, Tom Kim in only 4 rounds. That's Nick Hardy in 2 rounds, so I'm not too concerned about that. But Glover and Fowler is 24 rounds. Keegan is 24 rounds. Connors is 11 rounds. That's a lot of rounds. Hideki sucks at putting at this course. So does Griot. So does Tiger. So does Day. They're all just losing almost a half stroke per round on the green. Guys with a pretty big sample at that as well. 3-putt avoidance, who does the best? Well, Nick Hardy actually does, despite losing. So it's been the short putts. Actually, it's been this middle range here. 10 to 15 feet, 15 to 20 feet have really killed Nick Hardy, but his 3-putt avoidance was very good, as was Kitty. Man, Wyndham Clark. Can he win this? He does. He only wins majors and signature events, so why not for Wyndham Clark? Good at 3-putt avoidance. Todd Burns, again, someone who's also very good at 3-putt avoidance on this course, you can see per round. So the other thing that we're going to just briefly take a look at when it comes to putting, we're going to do spike percentage. And spike percentage, you can use it for any of the stats. It's best for the strokes gain categories, and generally I just like it for putting. So I'm going to set the spike percentage at 2. So what this means is the percentage of time that players gain 2 or more strokes putting in a round over the past 24, just to see the guys that can go super deep and have had super hot putting rounds. Or you can kind of swing it. So these are all the guys that have yet played in this tournament. And then we got the zeros. So who are we at here? Taylor Montgomery. So in 2 rounds, he has gained over 2 strokes putting in 1 of those rounds. Denny, half his rounds in 13 rounds, he's gaining over. So per round, 1.12, total of 14.6. But in those individual rounds, that's how well he's doing. Smalley, in his 6 rounds, he's gained over 2 strokes putting twice in 6 rounds. Harmon, Adam Scott, Seb Straka, all at 29%. Svensson, 1 of his 4 rounds have been 2 or over. Sungjae, 25% in 13 rounds. Cam Young, 2 of 8. Patrick Rogers, 25% of 24 rounds. Ditto for Homa. And Henley is down at 20%. So 20% for Henley, Thomas, Burns, and Sam Ryder, and Morikawa. Siwoo up there as well in the spike putting percentage. Now, you can kind of play this either way. You can say, hey, I know that these guys can go low because if they can get anything to match with it, we know that they can go low on the greens. Or you can say, hey, these guys, especially if they're like middling and not great results, that like they only have middling results because they had these rounds where they gained 3 strokes putting and that's how they made a cut. You can spin it any way that you want. It's whatever you believe. But the one thing that I am going to throw in here, so past 24 rounds, we're going to throw in strokes gained putting into our model. And we're also going to throw in, so we're going to click back out and add to MCM. We're also going to throw at Riviera itself 3-putt avoidance. So putting at the course, 3-putt avoidance at this particular course. And we can flop back around a little bit and go to strokes gained, my strokes gained model that goes in. And we can just see how people have done at this course. Average strokes gained total. Cameron Young has been the best. Cameron Young on a per round basis, like 8 rounds, 4 rounds, like whatever. Cameron Young, Svensson, Hovland, Cantlay, Homo, Morikawa. Anyone in particular? Wyndham Clark is up there as well. Theegala, Tiger is actually up there. It's more than a stroke per. Fitzpatrick, more than a stroke per against the field. We'll see who the worst guys are. Hardy, Spawn, Grayson, Bezadenhout, Smalley, Connors. Not a lot of huge hitters from down that way. Kitayama has not been good despite the stats actually liking him a little bit. You can throw that into the MCM if you want, but I am not going to do that. What I'm going to do is actually add the courses that we looked at. We're going to add Augusta Country Club and apply those course filters. So as you can see at the top, we have multiples now. So we have Augusta National and Riviera, and we're going to throw Quail Hollow into that mix, if I can spell it right. So we're going to throw in both of these. That's the old one and the new one. Pre-renovation of the greens, post-renovation of the greens, just because we have a lot of winners from both of those subsets. So now we have 4 in. So we can go to strokes gained total and see who the best player at all of those courses are. Now, we don't have strokes gained data from the Masters, only Quail Hollow and Riviera. So off the tee approach around the green and putting will only be from those 2 courses, not Augusta National. Strokes gained total, however, will be from all of those courses. You can get a sense of that when you click on the past rounds. You can see the Masters, that's all blacked out, but the strokes gained total is going to be there over the past 24 rounds. You can go player by player and check that out. So we can go to average, per round, strokes gained total. Kitayama's the worst, Scheffler's the best. So again, no new names have really cropped up between these courses. I'm shocked Homa is not up. Where the hell is Homa at? Is it because he's bad at the Masters? He's still up, like gaining 0.75 strokes per round total, but it's just way behind everyone else, which is kind of funny to think about in that sense. So we can just let's get rid of Augusta. And we'll apply the filters. So let's do Quail Hollow and Riviera for this. And you can throw in whatever you want. This is basically how you judge course history. And I'm adding in a few different courses. So we'll add course history and we'll throw strokes gained total into that mix as well. So this is what we've built out so far for a mixed condition model. Right now we have the Riviera rolling report for the model in real time. So it weights everything from 4 rounds to the past 100 rounds with the weighting that I ended up going through, which you can adjust any way that you want. Putting of the last 24 rounds at Riviera, 3-putt avoidance at Riviera over the past 24 rounds, strokes gained total from Quail Hollow and Riviera over the past 24 rounds. So those are the 4 that we have in so far. So now let's go back and we're going to clear everything in terms of the courses that we have selected. So now we're back at all courses, and you can throw in recent form if you want to, although that's kind of taken a little bit from what we've seen. And let's just go past 12 rounds overall, and we'll just throw strokes gained total. Overall, we'll call this recent form basically into the mixed condition model as well. The other things that we do want to throw in to the mixed condition model, maybe we can actually click on some of these conditions. Hitting fairways is difficult. Okay, so let's click that one on over 50% of the time. Rough length, short, we're going to throw that in. Green speeds, fast, we're going to throw that one in. Par 71, that doesn't really make that big of a difference. I do think that the course actually plays longer than the score sheet and the scorecard says, so it's probably more like an over 7,400 yard course, honestly, especially for the holes that are the most difficult. So that's realistically what we have going on now. There's not a lot of courses that actually fit the criteria of what we have, so maybe we've added too many in. So let's take out difficult to hit fairways to see if that opens up some more rounds for us. Not a ton, because maybe it's the fast greens that are causing us the problems. There's just not a lot of courses that fit this particular criteria of, you can see it at the top here, fast greens over 7,400 yards, rough length short. So let's just get rid of fast greens, and we'll throw that out. And one thing that I do want to add in to the model, because it's not in here right now, I just want to add in, I probably need to go back in and start a new model, don't I? Of course I do. It's this strokes gain model that I was looking for. There we go, because it just had more, and it had ball striking and short game in it as well, just because I wanted to see those for this particular course. So 0 rounds for Ludwig. He's just given a certain weight on those. Spieth, Wyndham Clark, Xander. Smalley actually plays well in these particular settings. Matsuyama, Zalatoris, Højgaard. So I don't really love exactly what this is in terms of that particular length. So now we can throw in some other things as well. What we can do is, let's go to driving distance. So let's go to fairways and greens. I believe that's where it's underneath. Yeah, driving distance. So we're going to throw in, we don't want past 12. This is one where we want a super long sample, just so we make sure that it's not because they played Kapalua that all of a sudden their driving distance is off the charts good. So we're going to throw in add to mixed condition model. We're going to throw in driving distance. And I have the wrong one pulled up there. Let's refresh the page, make sure we can get back to where we need to go on this front. If anything ever happens, I have Riviera pinned up at the top. But if anything ever happens like that, just refresh the page and you'll be good to go. Sometimes there's so much data going on that it can be somewhat confusing from time to time. So add to mixed condition model, we want driving distance, and we're going to throw that in. So let's just run what we have going on. So let's come up with some weightings for this. So Riviera rolling model is probably the one that we want to go with the most, but we can juxtapose that with our model as well when we take a look at it. Strokes gain putting at the course and 3-putt avoidance at the course. Let's make that about the same. Strokes gain total, multiple courses, so that like course history plus. We'll weight that just a little bit above putting, right around the rolling report. The last 12 recent form overall. We'll jack that up, and we'll jack up driving distance. That leaves us with 20% for the rolling model, 10% each on 3-putt avoidance and putting from Riviera by itself. Strokes gain total, multiple courses, 15%. Last 12 rounds overall recent form, 26%. And driving distance, last 75 rounds, 20%. We'll drop that back down a little bit, and it gives a bit more extra weight to everything else. And now we can update the mixed condition model, and I'm going to go back to past 24 rounds now. I'm going to load back in our Riviera model just so we can get a sense to see if there's any discrepancies between the mixed condition model ranking that we have and the model rank over the past 24 rounds anyway. So Xander's the best in the mixed condition model, 3rd in the model rank. The biggest difference here is Wyndham Clark is awesome in the mixed condition model and 34th in the model overall. So that's somewhat interesting. Justin Thomas, 5th in the mixed condition, 20th. Scott, 3rd and 15th. Homa, 2nd and 10. We're just looking at this course. Now, it did give weight to course history, so guys that have played well here in the past are obviously going to be a little bit higher. It dislikes Scotty Scheffler. It really elevates Sam Burns. Good, there's my reason to bet on Sam Burns. List drops down, so does Eric Cole in these specific conditions, and a lot of that has to do with driving distance. It gives a bump up, weirdly, to JT Poston, despite missing the cut in Phoenix, which probably isn't included in this. Obviously, it's not included in this, but the driving distance is very low for him, which is somewhat surprising here. Over the past 24 rounds, he's 56th in this field of 71 players currently in it. Where's Jake Knapp? Where's my guy? The Napster. Oh, Sean Parker, Napster. Now we're going somewhere. He is 4th in driving distance and 8th around the green. He should actually be pretty good at Riviera, too. I'm not going to bet him to win, but here we are. Højgaard is someone you could probably go to as well. He is 7th in driving distance over the span and rates out. He's a big jumper as well. He's 41st in the model rank, 17th in the mixed condition model, and I believe that's with no course history to speak of at Riviera. Let's see. Genesis. He played the Scottish Open twice, came 6th and missed a cut, has never played at this course in this tournament. Who else sees a big leap? Seb Straka sees a big leap. Jason Day sees a big leap. Big followers list, Eric Cole, Thigala. Thigala drops to 20 from 11, so it's not that steep. Is there anyone who was very high? Here's a big dropper. Hideki from 19th to 51st. That's probably with the terrible putting that he has at the RIV, same as Woodland. Woodland goes from 12th to 53rd in that sense. Jaeger goes from 18th to 57th. And the biggest follower of anyone is the Glove. Lucas Glover, 16th to 66th. So now let's guess the odds for the Genesis Invitational. Once again, 65-player field. It's cut down to the top 50 in ties. I do not know the conclusion of Phoenix, so that's obviously going to affect the odds of a lot of players. If Scotty ends up winning, his number is going to be shorter. If he loses or goes way backwards on Sunday, then, I mean, it's not going to kill his number, but instead of like an 8, it could be a 9, and then Rory's the favorite. So right now, I have Scotty and Rory as the co-favorites of the event at Riviera, both 8-1. I have Victor Hovland as the clear number 3 at 12-1 in the betting market. Cantlay and Xander both coming in at 14-1. I do think that recent form, notoriety, and mainly course history is really going to play a major impact, at least on the opening odds that we see at Riviera this week in a limited field at the same time. We usually get a lot of low numbers. Maybe I'm wish casting with some of these, but I have Homa at 16-1. He did win this tournament 3 years ago and always generally plays well in California. Colin Morikawa and Ludwig Aubert both at 20-1. I would bet that Ludwig number if it ends up at 20-1. I have Thomas at 22. Again, if he ends up winning in Phoenix, he'll be like 16-1. He's always played Riv really well. Spieth, Windy C, and Cam Young all at 28-1. Pretty good number on Wyndham Clark. Sam Burns I have on an island at 35-1. I have Sungjae and Finau both at 40-1. That might be too high on Tony Finau. Fitz I have by himself at 45. Fleetwood at 50. Adam Scott at 55. And let's take a shot in the dark here. Tiger Woods. And that's another thing that I want to hear from you, either on Twitter, below the video, in the comment section, on the Spotify questionnaire for the episode. What are Tiger Woods' opening odds going to be at Riviera? I'm going to guess 125-1. All right? You've done the walkthrough, or at least I've done the walkthrough, and you can do your own walkthrough and set all of your own weightings and modelings. And if you saw something that, hey, Pat didn't see that, but I saw it, you need to be on fantasynational.com. fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off. All right? That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. I'll return with Jeff and Cuss for a Super Bowl recap on Monday. Later on Monday, me, Jeff, and Cuss talking about this tournament and the betting odds, making our bets. Or Jeff and I will make our bets. Cuss ain't betting. But we'll make our one and dones for everything as well. And I should have the Listeners League by that point. My write-up will be free in the newsletter, and you'll probably get early access to the betting show as well. I got a ton of really cool content coming for you over the course of the next 2 weeks. So please stay tuned, rate and review, share the shows around, sub to the channel, smash the like, comment when you can. All that stuff pushes our show even higher on the charts, lets more people see it, and I am forever grateful for that. Me and my 4K TV. That's what I've earned from doing this show. All right? Good luck at Riviera. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!